1 second, Chris. Just need 1 more second. 1 more second.
And a few calls here and there, but we'll talk about that later.
Hey, yeah, calls aside. Just needed 1 more second. Gosh. All right, let's get this sucker started.
Yeah.
The state of North Carolina covers 53,000 square miles. It is the habitat of the feared Carolina Panthers. Get dialed in, Panthers fans, for an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews, locker room insight. Let's huddle up for Panthers Playbook. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome back to another episode of Panthers Playbook, Christmas Eve edition of Panthers Playbook, and unfortunately we cannot deliver you all a win. Maybe lumps of coals for the officials on this one today, Chris. Final score on this one, again, that's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. Final score on this one, Panthers lose this one 33-30, and this was a thrilling game. I thought early Green Bay was going to run away with this one because the defense did not stand up well. I thought Green Bay was going to run away with it, but man, got to give Carolina credit for fighting back in this one and putting themselves in a position to potentially tie the game and win it in the end.
Yeah, no doubt. This was the best loss. I went on Twitter and said this was the best loss for the Panthers this season.
Mm-hmm.
I wish the defense would have helped them out a little bit more. We'll talk about the defense later.
Yeah.
But that is the one loss that you had this season where you come away feeling like you took a step in so many different directions and that you also competed within the loss. This was the type of loss that Matt Rule would have had. Now, the problem was it felt like every loss was like this. And at what point do you get over that hump, which is why people were out on Matt Rule. But for the Carolina Panthers coming into this game, last week we talked about a lot. We said this is a great opportunity for them to build 2 consecutive weeks of good complementary football. And I felt like maybe 75% of the time they did that.
Yeah.
This is the best 2 weeks that the Carolina Panthers have put on tape this entire season. And as you're looking toward the future, as you're assessing what you have on the roster, you're assessing who can do what and who can step up. There are some good games for a lot of different people, man. DJ Chark, that was the DJ Chark that I expected when they signed him. And
it only took till now.
People been calling me crazy for what I said in the preseason and all that. And yes, I was 100% wrong. But that's what I expected because those are plays that I saw him make with the Lions last year. And DJ Chark absolutely was snagging everything. Tommy Tremble had an amazing game. And that's the type of game that I thought we were going to get from Hayden Hurst. I'm not going to pile on him because of his injury and what he's been going through this so far to end the season. But like we haven't seen that from Hayden Hurst this year. And Bryce Young, for the most part, was kept upright. I mean, he was able to kind of get out of trouble in some ways and throw the ball away and get it to the right guys, dump it off, or find open receivers in the scramble drill. Felt like the receivers worked better with them in the scramble drill today.
Yeah, 100%.
So like you see what is possible if the pieces around Bryce Young act like they want to win some football. And that's what the Carolina Panthers did today. And hats off to them. This loss feels like a win.
I'll push back on that one because it's still an L.
Based off of what we've seen this season?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's a darn good one.
It feels like a win.
Let's be real. They at least offensively.
There's no playoffs. There's nothing to look forward to. You're looking just for improvement. And that's what we said last week. And what did they do? They
backed it up.
This feels like a win.
I would say offensively, this is obviously their best output this season, but this is by and far Bryce Young's best game. Because when you're trailing 23-10 going into halftime, and obviously you're not moving the ball super well, you're going to have to rely on your quarterback's arm to get you back into this one. And in the second half, it was Bryce Young. Like you mentioned, those scramble drills, moving around to the right, there's a lot of good stuff out there I saw from Bryce, Chris.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but we didn't say his stats. 23 for 36.
Oh, yeah, I was going to get there. Yeah.
312 yards, 2 touchdowns, just to put it out there. Go ahead. Go with what you're cooking up.
I was going to get into that. So they knew that Bryce was going to throw. Obviously, like second play of the game, takes a sack. Nash Jensen just got straight cooked on that one. He got a sack. There's another sack in the second half. But for the most part, he was upright. Early on, he did miss a couple of throws. But overall, like you mentioned, on the scramble drills, was putting it into the right spots. The second touchdown that they threw to DJ Chark, scrambling out to the right, put it in the right spot where Chark can get 2 feet in and make the catch. It was an absolutely great throw on the run. But here's something that impressed me. When we talk about the stats, I know you mentioned the 312 yards passing. First time he's been over 250, let alone 300. But the yards per attempt, 8.7. First time in his career he's been over 8 yards per attempt. And in the 2 wins this season, he was at 7 and 7.6. In the win against Houston, 7.6, and the win against Atlanta last week, he was at 7 yards per attempt. These are the only 3 games he's been over that in his career. But when they needed him to make plays late, the guy made the throws when he needed to. And this was by far Bryce Young's best game. So people are looking that we're saying, hey, we need to see something from Bryce for hope.
Yeah.
Was this your game? Because here's the thing. I've been critical of Bryce at times this season, but you know what? You got to give credit where it's due. The dude showed out today.
And just for the fact, like, I mean, what we've said before, like, you know, it's hard to evaluate a rookie quarterback when everything around that guy is bad, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's different if this is a veteran quarterback, but even with a veteran quarterback, you got to give some of them grace. If your coaching staff, you know, doesn't work together, if you don't have an offensive line that blocks, if your receivers don't get separation, you don't have a running game, so on and so on and so on and so forth. And we were asking a rookie quarterback to come in here and look like the savior for a team who felt like they were just one piece away, when really they are multiple pieces away. And so, yeah, that was basically like what we saw today is kind of what, like, I think Dennis, you and I were kind of saying to Panthers fans this entire season. Let's give it time, right?
Yeah.
Because one, Bryce Young is still learning how to become an NFL quarterback. And we saw where he was picking and choosing his spots. He didn't miss a few throws earlier in the game, but those are also times where pressure was right there in his face. And he went back to the old Bryce where he didn't go back and really hit that hitch on his drop and plant his feet. His feet weren't together, and he was a little jumpy. Second half, he got his feet together.
Yeah.
And he was able to, like, really step into throws and have a sure arm. And shout outs to the offensive line for playing better today. Still, there's a lot of work to do.
Oh, tons.
there.
Oh, there are tons.
Still a lot of work
tons.
to do. But it was better. And so Bryce with receivers when they catch the ball, because remember, that's also been a problem this year when receivers are dropping balls that are coming right to them. Receivers caught the balls that came to them. Receivers got open, and shout outs to Thomas Brown for getting them into good play calls to where Bryce Young could throw the ball further down the field today. And for 2 people stepping up in Tommy Tremble and DJ Chark. No quarterback is doing it on their own. They need people to step up, and those 2 stepped up today.
Something that impressed me a lot about the Panthers offense this season, I know I talked about on our Thursday episode about red zones and the red zone percentages. So, for example, coming into the game, the Green Bay Packers defensively were 9th in the NFL in red zone touchdown percentage. So they only are giving up when a team enters the red zone, 51% of the time the opponent scored a touchdown. That's 9th best in the NFL. Carolina was 29th in the NFL in red zone offensive touchdown percentage. They were at 45%. So they were near the bottom of the NFL in terms of red zones and getting inside the getting touchdowns inside the red zone. Carolina was 3 for 3 today. 3 for 3 in red zone today. That to me was one of the more impressive things because we wanted to see them offensively. All right, last week you put up 9 points, terrible rainstorm, all that kind of stuff. But we wanted to see this offense progress and make those plays inside the red zone. They did that today, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, 3 of 4 was Green Bay in red zone opportunities today in terms of getting a touchdown. That's 75%, which is actually where the Panthers have been all season long. It's actually one of the worst in the NFL. We'll get into defense in a sec. But those are some of the things that I wanted to see from the offense. It's more about how did you follow up a win? And offensively, they backed it up. Now the question is going forward, all right, you had the big game, Bryce. You had the big offensive output in this one. Yes, in a loss. How do you follow it up next week? Because any team and any person is capable of having a great moment or a great game. You have to back it up again next week.
And I know that some of this happened on that final drive, but shout outs to them on this, right? Where the Panthers once again had the overall better offensive output. If you just look at the team stats, they had a higher, possession of the ball, 31 minutes and 21 seconds to 28-39. They had more first downs, 26 to 25. They had more passing first downs, 14 to 12, right? 394 yards to 369. The running attack wasn't as good today. But shout outs to Amir Smith Marset, excuse me, for his touchdown and also helping out when it comes down to that part of the ball, that part of the game, I should say. This is the closest thing to a complete game that I felt like the Panthers played in a loss this season. So I'm just really just happy just for the output. And let's read the stats of the receivers too, because we gave them the shout outs earlier, so we can at least let them know what happened. 6 catches for 98 yards for DJ Chark and 2 touchdowns. And Tommy Tremble 4 catches for 59 yards. Adam Thielen 6 catches, 94 yards. Like that's and it's even Stephen Sullivan. He had a decent game with 3 catches for 21 yards.
Yeah.
Outside of that, everybody else was pretty much quiet when it came down to receiving. A lot of ones out there. But those guys absolutely stepped up, and this is 100% something to build on for the Panthers.
It's funny because the defense, if we said this multiple times this season, if there was decent offensive output, maybe looking at a few more wins. But it's ironic, this game, the offense did their job, and it was the defense really that let things down. They gave up 30+, and honestly, tons of missed tackles. You pointed it out multiple times during the game, whether it was on X or you texting me. Missed tackles galore. And this is the first time all season, I saw Steve Reed from the Associated Press mention this, first time all season that the Green Bay Packers have had either receiver or running back have 100+ yards in a game. First time all season. Of course, it was against the Panthers. Defense was actually the one that let them down today.
Absolutely. And I think going back to I have to look this up really quick. This was their highest scoring game. Since week 1 against the Bears.
Yep.
So it's like, it's frustrating because, with Bryce and the offense clicking so much today, you just would have hoped that just 2 of those drives that the defense would have been able to just stop early. And a lot of it just happened to be tackles. Now, a lot of fans are going to bring up officiating. And one thing that kind of kept the chains moving for the Packers, which ended up being a touchdown for the Packers, is the roughing on
Yetur
Gross-Matos. And that was one of the worst roughing calls I've seen all season. Then that keeps the chains moving. Touchdown for the Packers. I don't want to heap too much on the referees, because ultimately the players still have to play the game and make stops and tackles and things like that. And then also, I want to know what you think. Was that a catch at the end?
Oh yeah, you're talking about the Dobbs catch down the left sideline.
Because
when they called it a catch, and I was looking back through it, I was like, it's so borderline, because I'm like, all right, what do you consider the process of the catch? What do you consider going down to the ground? Because when he caught the ball, he was on his back sliding. I was like, okay, well, he was in bounds. Then he was on his back. Then it's when he rolls over. I'm like, I don't know. It's so borderline. I was like, if it's borderline in terms of replay and you called it a catch on the field, then you got to call it a catch. You got to stand with the call. I thought that was the right decision in that regard. I'm like, there's nothing that really could, in terms of video, that really could overturn it. I don't know. It was 50-50. It's gray area. It's 50-50.
The part for me, and I agree with that, because it's so hard to overturn that.
Yeah.
The part for me was the official that's sitting right there looking at it and sees the ball come loose.
Mm-hmm.
How do you then say, oh, he completed the the process of the catch on the field when
Yeah.
you're looking and seeing it
Great
come
point.
loose live, because he had the same view the Panthers bench had, and that's why they went crazy right there, because they saw the same thing, because it wasn't like he for sure got it at the high point, came down, and then all of a sudden the ball just went loose after he completed the catch. This was kind of a juggling thing, and then you saw it go loose at the end. So that's the part for me where it's like, I don't know if I'm an official and they have a hard job. I'm not ragging on the officials too much, but if I'm an official, I don't know if I saw enough live to call that a catch. So then if you do go back, same point that you just made, you do go back and look at it, is there enough to overturn it? I don't think so. I don't think there's enough either way, depending on what's called on the field. And then also there's shout outs to, hold on, let me get the name, Fernando Aguiar.
Okay.
He sent me a tweet. Green Bay, 3rd and 4 at the Panthers 31-yard line, and it's 30-30, 2:39 left in the game. And in this tweet, the play clock is at 00, and the ball is not snapped. The center is actually still looking back at Jordan Love. And I assume it was snapped immediately right after that, but we didn't get a delay of game penalty on them. We talked about the Yetur Gross-Matos call. That was bad. So there was a couple times there where I was just kind of like, man, like, I know it's just the Panthers. I know they have no chance. I know the Packers are going to give you ratings when you get to the postseason. I know that.
Yeah.
But
now you're going full conspiracy theory. Go on. Bring it on. Bring it on.
I mean, I sound just like Canes fans in ESPN.
Well, that's different. That's different, sir. But go on.
But I mean, it's real though. Like it's it's. And then also picking up the flag for the first roughing the passer that should have been called against Bryce Young. Like, it's stuff like that where it's just like, come on, man. Like at least call it the same way on the other side.
Yeah.
If you're gonna call it one way for the Packers, right? Even if we disagree with the call it the same way for the Panthers. That's what makes people think that weird things are going on with the officials.
Yeah, I totally get it. This is where the coach in me comes out. You could talk about the officiating and stuff. We're like, well, you still missed a bunch of tackles. Like you still, exactly. Like you still missed a bunch of tackles.
At the beginning. I wanted
you still got to do all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's where the coach in me comes out. But yeah, what if? But unfortunately, it's a 33-30 loss in this one. Maybe Cam Newton can fix the officiating. Maybe Cam Newton will do that. If David Tepper hires him as team president, which Cam Newton is basically throwing it out there, he's like, hey, hire me as an executive. Just give me an incentive-laden contract. Basically, like no salary. Just if we hit these benchmarks, you can pay me based off these things. Then things will turn around for the Panthers. I don't know what that means. I don't know exactly what his role will be. Is he going to pick personnel? Is he going to talk about fan experience? There's a whole lot of different stuff. But hey, Cam Newton's throwing his name into the hat, and Cam Newton loves hats.
So he does love hats. Here's what I took from Cam Newton's comments that he had earlier this week on his podcast. And he's also brought up some stuff last week and all that. So the last couple of weeks, Cam Newton has kind of been, talking about the Panthers. I took from it that he understands what's going on. He has a prior relationship with David Tepper. He understands firsthand what the Panthers are doing wrong. He's called out Matt Rule on things. He said, I had to coach. He said that about Matt Rule. He talked about David Gettleman and how David Gettleman got in the way of the Panthers winning when they were riding high.
Yeah.
How David Gettleman and his ego got in the way of all of that, right? And then to have that like insight and to know what's going on. I don't think this is about necessarily personnel, even though I do think that Cam Newton has an eye for personnel. Remember, he runs this 7-on-7 league, and he's had or team, and he's had folks like George Pickens, as a part of his team, and others. He has guys that he's coached on the youth level who are now in the NFL So I'm sure he knows how to look at talent, but we're not going to use him as the GM, right?
Yeah, as
just
a talent evaluator.
This is just a president role. I think David Tepper needs somebody like Cam Newton, who is the liaison between David Tepper and what the team is doing.
Yeah.
So when the GM meets and say, "Hey, we need this," blah 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 blah, that should go through Cam Newton to David Tepper. So that way, David Tepper doesn't start meddling, right? Preferably, this general manager is not Scott Fitterer. So there's somebody who can just run the team. They don't have to worry about it. They can get input from the best quarterback in the franchise. And by the way, he can pull Bryce Young aside a few times during the week and give him some pointers and some tips.
I think
it seems like it works to me.
Cam was basically saying is like, I'm going to be the guy that's going to hold Tepper accountable.
Yes.
That's essentially like, I'm going to be Tepper's accountability person. That's exactly essentially what he's saying. Like, you know what? That's fine. Like, hey, you know what? You need to stay out of this. Like, you need to stay out of, like, this kind of stuff over here. Like, you should be involved in this. You need to stay out of this kind of stuff over here. You need to let this person do that job or whatever it might be. If that's what Tepper needs, like, this, like, the voice in his ear saying, no, don't do that, maybe that's what he needs. And you know what? That's fine. I'm okay with that. If that's simply his role, fine. Make that happen. Whatever's best for the franchise moving forward, I'll take it, Chris.
Can we give a shout out to the fans, even though it was mostly Green Bay fans there? That 70,000 tickets distributed looked really like 70,000 today.
Oh, yeah?
People used their seats, their tickets today.
Well, it's a nice day. I mean, here's the thing. Last week it was pouring rain. It was gross. It was cold outside. You know what? I don't blame people for not wanting to show up. But you know what? Beautiful day. Like you said, a lot of Green Bay fans. I bet a lot of people got tickets as a Christmas gift. Hey, early Christmas gift. Let's go to a football game. And it was gorgeous outside. I mean, granted, I'm sitting in Emerald Isle, and it's 65 degrees at the time of recording this right now. And it's gorgeous out here.
Looks great in your background for sure.
And thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, that's just kind of where things are. So I totally get it.
At the end of that game, it really felt like an old Panthers game from like the 2010s, right? Like, because there were fans in the seats, it was loud in there, and Panthers fans were loud, and
there's an energy.
You felt like there was energy, there was momentum, and it didn't feel like this dead place that we've seen before. So shout outs to the fans, even though there were a lot of Green Bay fans there. It did feel like the Panthers fans who were there came there to show up. So everything all around besides the defense and their tackling and officiating, everything all around gets at least a B for me. Yeah. Like, everybody got a B, and I haven't been able to say that all season.
Those are high grades. Those are high grades. Yeah. That's put those ones on the refrigerator for sure. All right. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks so much for checking this out. I know a lot of people got a lot of holiday stuff going on, so thank you all. Merry Christmas to you. We'll have another episode for you all on Thursday, because that's what we do. We still bring it for you, people. We're still going to bring it for you. But nonetheless, 3330, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, subscribe, please. Really do appreciate it.
Enjoy
Chris,
the beach, Dennis.
I will. Merry Christmas to you, Chris.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays to you. Happy Kwanzaa. All of that good stuff.
We'll see you all on Thursday.